Garden Lodge in Kensington, West London, is a home that was, and still is, much loved. This enclave was a special place for Freddie, a sanctuary to return to after the rigours of touring. It was an escape from a hectic world. The Edwardian brick walls of the garden were ramparts, and the two gorgeous magnolia trees in the garden a heavenly canopy. For those fortunate enough to pass beyond the famed green door of its exterior wall, it was magical, and the privilege of an invitation was the reserve of only loyal friends. Despite being in one of the busiest parts of London, the house has a quality normally associated with a home in the country. Its Georgian brick form is neatly proportioned, while its inside rooms were conceived to create a sense of space and light. Freddie specially commissioned Japanese gardens felt integral to the interior. Extraordinarily, Garden Lodge was conceived for creative people. The architect Ernest Marshall designed it in 1907 for married artists Cecil Ree and Constance Halford. An evocative work by the latter, which appropriately depicts a woman at a piano, is included in the collection. Marshall's concept of a combined home and studio for artists may have struck a chord with Freddie when he saw the Ales for Sale particulars in 1980. What would have excited him enormously was the scope for reinventing the house. The sympathetic and clever remodeling and redecoration that took place over the next decade is a testament to this. Peter Freestone, Freddie's personal assistant and friend, recalls in his book Freddie Mercury, an intimate memoir by the man who knew him best, that Garden Lodge, was a canvas upon which he painted his life and surrounded himself with the image of beauty. In addition, Freddie saw its potential to become a home for a growing collection of beautiful objects and pictures. Garden Lodge afforded the perfect setting and was able to house the pieces that Freddie had acquired, a collecting process that was to take on greater momentum as his life went on. It was also to be a home for a collection of a different sort, his beloved cats. Christened the Horse House by Freddie, having previously been owned by a family associated with London's illustrious horse bank, he set about commissioning specialist interior architect and designer Robin Moore each to prepare drawings of his ideas. Freddie wanted to make rooms bigger and bolder, and he was undoubtedly the artistic driving force in the project. Freestone writes, Robin's job was more to tell Freddie what he couldn't do rather than do any constructive designing himself. With Moore aid realizing and encouraging Freddie's ideas, it became the perfect partnership. Crucially, however, it was Freddie who ultimately decided how something should look and where his treasure should be placed. Visitors to Garden Lodge were greeted by a bright, cheery hall hung with richly detailed 19th century pictures, and accented by a sumptuous marble table. A masterpiece of Florentine lapidary, almost certainly by Bianchini. Fabulous things were chosen not to overwhelm but to give joy. Exquisite detail was a unifying feature. For example, the woven texture of a sitter shawl captured by Victorian artist Hurstone, or the fragility of a rose. Georgian-style panel doors led to two significant rooms, the Japanese sitting room and the theatrically designing drawing room. On the left of the front door, the Japanese sitting room took on the role of a private space, which contains Freddie's carefully curated collection of Japanese fine and decorative art. Japanese woodblocks lined the walls, prints that provided a survey spanning the 18th century through to the end of the 19th, a high point of which was Hirogoshi Utagawa's sublime southern shower of Shine, Owashi, Bridge and the Take. This collection could be rotated, and prints could be changed from their frames, with others held in a specially constructed print store on the landing. It was also where, from a previous home, a suite of whimsical 1920s chinoiserie-style furniture acquired from Harrods in the late 70s was installed. This included a cabinet so gloriously eccentric and exotic it could have come from the collection of a Brighton pavilion. Touchingly, this quiet room with views across the garden to his adored carp pond, was where Freddie chose to sit and sketch objects displayed here at the end of his life. Across the oak parquet floor and soft calm silk carpet of the hall, further double doors opened to reveal a room which was a complete contrast. Freddie restored the original studio to its Edwardian glory and, while retaining the magnificent two-story window, included an element of theatre with a minstrel's gallery for a bar, which also featured a music centre and library, mainly composed of art books and auction catalogues. This formed a private box with a view of the garden and the room below, which housed some of his most beloved 19th century art, including the Rose by Eugène van Blaas, an image depicting a lady whose gaze fell upon those on the balcony. This double-height drawing room was a centerpiece of Garden Lodge, in which Freddie's Yamaha grand piano, bought earlier in the career, took pride of place as his own version of a painter's easel and canvas. It was there that many of the most important pieces were displayed. James Tissot, accomplished type of beauty, was hung alongside jewel-like Indian miniatures. The earliest a Mughal example from the end of the 16th century and painted in the Persian tradition, perhaps in a subtle nod to Freddie's own early life, his parents being from the Parsi community of Western India. François-Léon Benouville's sinuous Art Nouveau marquetry cabinet faces a Louis XVI style gilt bronze mounted cabinet, which displayed a superb Meissen dinner service, delicately painted with botanical specimens. A sumptuous marble bust of the goddess Diana by Henry Wegeler and a bronze of Roman Emperor Adrian Male's lover Antinous, depicted as Bacchus, sat enthroned on the ledge of the enormous window. They stood sentry for a line of cleverly positioned, colourful art glass by the French 20th century makers Dôme, Lalique and Gallet. These pieces were beautifully lit on this stage by natural light. Elegant 18th century style tables by renowned ébénistes working in Paris at the end of the 19th century supported table lamps to create the right ambient light. These lamps cast shadows from porcelain, glass and framed photographs, while Tissot's special painting was evocatively illuminated with a green glazed cameo glass Gallet lamp. Adjoining the hall was an intimate dining room. The high-gloss citrus-toned yellow walls made this entertainment space memorable. Freddie's choice of his favorite color was dramatic and warming, and perhaps recalled the colors of his childhood in Zanzibar and India. So involved was he in the realization of this scheme that bright complementary colors were chosen and then painted on to the cornice and ceiling rows by Freddie himself. At night, the room would have been magical, shimmering with candles and the light reflected from silver, crystal and porcelain. Finely inlaid furniture designed by Moore Ede was commissioned and then beautifully executed by Bianco. These pieces made from honey-colored timbers were very practical. The table could be extended for large parties. There were special compartments and trays for silver in the cabinets, and best of all, there was a not-so-secret compartment in an ensuite vitrine which Freddie loved to show guests. The dining room was originally hung with brightly colored works in green gloss frames by Rudy Patterson, which later migrated to the kitchen. The room was eventually hung with Marc Chagall's colorful lithograph, The Judgment of Chloe, positioned between two further prints, both monochromatic works by Georges Braque and Henri Matisse. The aquatint by Matisse depicts a face and relates thematically to Freddie's own private later sketches. The prints in the collection, both European and Japanese, are generally very graphic in style and recall the work that Freddie produced as an art student, particularly those he created for submission to potential employers in the hope of gaining work from advertising agencies. The large kitchen, where he spent much time, was playful. At its heart, a vintage jukebox stood beside the large table and, marvelously, without pretension, superb prints, including those by Picasso and Miro, dominated the walls. The staircase was lit by a Venetian window at the top of the stairs. There was a wall densely hung with Goya engravings, juxtaposed with framed gold and platinum discs, from which freestone recalls the lightwood bonds. Among this rich display, a short flight of stairs led to a small balcony that opened onto the most incredible space. An ambitious renovation and a design tour de force, Freddie's mastersuit. The concept echoed that of a noble palace, as it presented a series of rooms which culminated in a bedchamber, like an enfilade of grand staterooms. Entered through a room that mirrored from floor to ceiling with multiple angled concealed doors, these rooms were like rare, enameled boxes. Kaleidoscopic environments enhanced by a ceiling in a dressing room, dreamily lit with the flick of a switch by slowly revolving colored light. This recalled famous Art Deco rainbow room at the Biba department store on Kensington High Street, a place Freddie knew well. In the center was a large round ottoman covered in luxurious yellow foliate silk, a bespoke piece from Howard Ltd designed by Moore Eden. Two large sliding mirrored walls opened to reveal the pièce de résistance, Freddie's bedroom, which featured a large sitting area replete with a Louis XV style chaise longue. Freddie used his mastersuit, with its view on a garden across two aspects, to receive his closest friends. Sumptuous Belle Epoque cabinets, one in the form of a sedan chair, were arranged with beautiful things including rare lacquers from Japan, Fabergé objets d'art, art glass and painted porcelains. The walls were hung densely with the works of an artist adored by Freddie. Louis K, his languid female figures cavorting on the walls. The closets and store spaces at the house were treasure troves too. Carefully packed away in metal traveling trunks was a veritable riot of color and texture. Freddie's costumes, clothing and accessory from across his career. Moments from some of his most famous performances lay captured within their containers, including wonderful fabrics of silk, chiffon, satins and leather designed by luminaries like Dame Sandra Roth, Wendy de Smet and Diana Mosley. A red suitcase held Freddie's own robes of state, his coronation train and crown, regal trappings that speak of the exceptional career of a genius. But Garden Lodge was not supposed to be a depository, or more importantly, a museum. And Freddie never meant it to be. It was a home. His music was to be a legacy. The collection here is a rich tapestry which affords an adventure for the viewer, and it is a snapshot of time. Freddie understood the cycle of ownership and loved the theatre of auction. This sale, combined with the joy that the process always afforded him, would have appealed to him enormously as a way of celebrating his collection and a home he created beyond the green door.